Hello everyone, welcome back. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi, it's Monday and I have your weekly dose of ghost stories for you. If this is your first time joining me here on a Monday, I read out my subscribers' ghost stories that they send to me here at this email address. You can send me your ghost stories, weird stories, paranormal happenings, you never know, weird people doing things. This series is very much based on Bailey Saren's Murder Mystery Makeup Mondays. I will leave a link to her channel below and you can go ahead and check that out. But I'm very sure you know who she is already. So here is today's theme of how I died. I'm like your fun auntie, fun. And all I ever do is like make jokes about wine on Facebook. I'm like, oh my God, wine time. Wine o'clock. Oh, I love wine. Kids in bed, let's have some wine. I need that wine, you know, like that kind of thing. It's like, we get it, you drink wine. And then one evening, I was like ready to post my like nightly wine post, like funny, relatable wine joke. And I was like, oh, rough day at the office, gonna need that wine. And then someone said to me, they were like, you can, like, we get it, like, it's not funny, like, wine memes aren't funny, like, we get it, people drink wine to cope. And I couldn't deal with, I was like, how do you not find this funny? Like, wine, you know? And I just exploded, and wine just poured out of me, like this. And that's how I died. There's a hidden message in that. Okay, so I'm using a few different products. Nothing new apart from some rare beauty stuff, which I've either reviewed already or I'm going to review. I think it'll be after this, actually. Check it out or check it out soon. Okay. Oh, and I'm going to use the Waiting Room palette from the Beetlejuice and Milk Cosmetics because I haven't actually used it yet. I used the other one, but I haven't used this one. And it's perfect because it has like those red wine tones. All right. So let's start with our first story. And this is called My Stay at the Gettysburg 1863 Inn. It says, hi Robert, I love your videos. I always look forward to watching your ghost story videos every Monday. Also, the concealer tip has changed my life. Thank you so much. I was in 11th grade, equivalent to year 12, and in a club called the Civil War Round Table. It really wasn't much fun of a club, as most of our meetings would be planning and doing fundraisers to go to the Gettysburg Inn, Pennsylvania. That year there was more funding than usual, and our club got to stay at the 1863 Inn overnight, which was super exciting for myself and my friends. It meant that we could have a giant sleepover and also miss a day of school. The club and I arrived at Gettysburg and entered the inn, where it kept the historical theme but still managed to be a regular hotel. Our day was packed with visiting different battlefields and learning more about the Civil War. When nightfall came, my teacher surprised us with a ghost tour that guided us through the town. That is a good teacher. The second to last stop was in front of the inn, and the guide told us that there was a little boy that goes by the name of George that loves to play tricks. The guide advised us that the ghost wasn't harmful, but is active on certain floors, and one of the floors, she said, just so happened to be the one that myself and my friends was staying on. Later that night, in our room, my friends and I were playing games and chatting about everything until we decided that it was best that we fall asleep since it was coming close to the morning. One of my friends was scared of the dark, so we decided to leave reruns of Friends playing on the TV, on mute, before going to bed. As we were saying goodnight to each other, we hear a knocking on the door. I know who that's going to be. At first I thought I was the only one who heard it because my friends seemed to be oblivious. But when the knocking continued, we all turned and looked at the door. One of my friends thought it was just some classmates playing a game, as she claimed to see a figure run past the hotel window. But surely if it was a classmate, they would have done it sooner, as it's now around 1:40 a.m. Paralysed from fear, I decided to be bold and get up from bed and open the door. When I opened the door, there was nobody in the hallway. As soon as I entered back into the room and got into bed, there was another knock. My friend decided to look for herself and saw no one as well. Frightened, we all cuddled up on one of the beds, and without a delay, above a headboard, in the shape of an upside-down U, there was a continuous knocking on the wall. My friends all screamed and yelled for the little boy, George, to leave us alone. In that moment, I thought it was a group of students in the next room playing a prank and decided to do the same thing to them. As soon as my knuckles came in contact with a wall, I freaked out. The wall was concrete, which meant that you had to get on the bed and knock with extreme force from the other room to even try and make a tiny noise. All my friends were so scared to go to sleep after witnessing this, but I was so tired and I didn't care if little boy George was going to continue to play these games. So I just covered myself up in the sheets and fell asleep. The following morning, my friends and I told our teacher and the rest of the classmates of our experience, and no one really believed us. It wasn't until I was in university, where I talked to my friend from high school, who was also in the club, that she admitted to knocking the first time with her friends. She told me that her friends were doing pranks but were afraid of getting caught, that they did it once and then went to bed at 1 in the morning, which only meant that George must have finished the prank where the girls left off. George, you're naughty. Naughty George. Yeah, he wanted to be involved. He wanted to get involved in that prank. I would too. Imagine being like a ghost, a child ghost, and then having all these people closer to your age coming in and being like, oh, I want to be them. Be with them, you know, and experience what they're experiencing. Thank you so much for that story. That was great. Okay, let's listen to our first audio story. And this one's called Berry Rose Cemetery or Cemetery.
Hi, Robert. I love your channel and I love how your makeup tips are always honest and true. Here are many of my paranormal stories. There are going to be a few in this story. So I'm a dancer from Las Vegas, Nevada. I worked at the infamous Palomino Club. It is the first club in Las Vegas. The history is filled with murder and suicide. But here are a few of my personal encounters. My first one. It was a really slow night, so the upstairs VIP area was closed, but we could still take customers upstairs. Me and my customer went upstairs, got settled in our little room. He needed to use the restroom. There's only a male restroom upstairs, so I told him where it was. He came running back the fastest I've ever seen somebody run, threw money at me, grabbed the rest of his stuff, and said, "I'm getting the fuck out of here." And he ran out of the building. I walked out of the room. Mind you, there's no one up there, and it was silent, it was dark, completely closed. When I walked out, all the lights were on, music was blasting, and you could hear clinking of glasses like somebody was behind the bar. You could hear voices like there were customers upstairs, and the speaker from where the music was coming from, you heard a really deep growling voice. I took my shoes off, and I ran out of there as well. So here's my second story. There's a back stairwell that will lead you upstairs from our locker room. One night, I was on the phone, I was sitting over there for some privacy, and it was really dark, like the whole stairwell was really dark. I looked up, and I saw a woman in all white standing on the second floor, looking down at me. My last story of which I'll share. This story makes me cry to this day. One of my friends, who was slowly becoming a very good friend of mine, she committed suicide in the back locker room. She was known to be in the dancer's dressing room doing things, and she would turn the shower on all the time. One night, the shower was on and the door was locked. After 30 minutes, a manager had to come and unlock the door. There was nobody in there, but you could smell her perfume. It was very distinct scent. Also, I could be in the locker room, and this happened all the time that I worked there. I'd be in the locker room. I could smell her because her locker was very close to mine. I could smell her perfume. I would feel a touch on my shoulder or my back, and I would hear voices that sounded like she was walking down the hallway to get back to our locker room. I could hear shoes, so I could hear walking, and nobody would be there. I would go upstairs to where there were a little bit other stages, and I would always feel her presence. Whenever I would go on stage, I would always feel like I was still sharing the stage with her, like she never left the club. And like I said, to this day, it still makes me very sad because I know why she did what she did. But that's beside the point. So anyway, I hope my 3 stories have made you a little bit scared, maybe made some other people scared. I don't work there anymore. Anyway, so I hope you have a wonderful and amazing day. Hopefully you listen to this and it ends up on your channel. So stay safe and keep making your awesome videos.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm so sorry for the loss of your friend. But to have that feeling that they're there with you at work and, you know, dancing with you is so nice, and to have that energy there, that's so cute. Give me a second there. I actually used to do makeup for the girls at a dance club in London. And the building itself, it's London, so all the buildings are pretty old. And it was in Piccadilly Circus. So it was right in the heart. It was like near Soho, Piccadilly Circus area. And the building was absolutely terrifying. And I was always in this corner. Like, the girls had their locker room, and they would like do their hair and stuff and then get changed, and then they'll come and see me for makeup. But I was like round the corner in my own little area that had like this, you know, like one of those mirrors with like lights all around it. And I always felt uneasy in that little corner there. Like, I was definitely by myself, and the room was no bigger than, let's say, like a small tiny bathroom. But I felt like I just didn't like the vibe of the place at all. That was one of my many freelance jobs I used to do. Thank you so much again for sharing that story with us. Our next story is called Cat Curse? It says, hello, I've been wanting to share this story for the longest time, and I'm really hoping you read it. Please enjoy it. I will, and I will. First, let me start off by explaining. We lived on top of an Indian burial ground. That's very cliche on Pennsylvania, but when you have blue ghosts walking around all the time, you believe it. I was about 10 or 11, and if I was playing video games downstairs, they would walk towards me. I'd run upstairs and jump in my bed. They'd peek their head in and then check on the rest of my family. It's as if they were being very parental with me. One day, after a long day of school, I came home and wasn't in a good mood. I decided to rest, slamming the door behind me. I lie down and huffed about a terrible day. After a minute or two, I felt something crawling up me. We had 2 cats, so I figured I didn't realise one was in the room before I slammed the door. I realised I was paralysed. I looked down, completely unable to move. And it was neither of our cats. We had a black cat and a tabby. This was a blue, with beautiful green eyes and white whiskers. It walked its way up my entire body. I felt its weight in my chest. He looked at me and tickled his whiskers in my face and meowed. That broke my paralysis. I jumped up and looked around. No cats in my room, and my door was closed. Not long after that, my mum and her boyfriend broke up. We went from apartment to apartment, unable to own a pet due to restrictions with apartments. I moved out at 18, and my ex and I decided it was time for a pet. We went to the local SPCA to adopt our new kitty. As we walked in the door for the cats, I looked down. I saw the same cat. He looked at me, nodded, and turned around. I'm now 27 and have had him ever since. It's so weird and spooky, but I swear, a cat cursed me and lifted it after we reunited in real time. Cute. Why would a cat curse you though? Like, what business? What business does it have cursing you? That's what I would like to know. Thank you so much for your story. That was so cute. Was it though? Okay, next up, as is custom, we have Marcus reading us 2 stories.
Hi. This first story is called The Boy Named Charlie. Hi, Robert. First, I want to say I love your videos. My cousin introduced me to you earlier this year, and I've been obsessed since. We always refer to you as my friend Robert. That's the opposite of what me and James refer to him as. Okay, the story. I grew up in a very full house. My nana and papa, my dad and my aunt and her children. At the time this story starts, my aunt had 2 boys called Bailey and Tyler. Bailey was always very active, like most young boys. He loved to watch wrestling and would try to imitate the wrestlers on TV, normal little boy things. He was about 3 or 4 when he started becoming more mischievous and would do things like playing with lighters and trying to mess with the gas heater. Luckily, nobody was hurt. He would say that Charlie was telling him to do it, which was very unsettling, considering we didn't know anyone named Charlie for him to get that name from. We told him not to listen to Charlie because he would get into trouble. Eventually, things escalated to him hiding knives around the house, in the couch and under the rugs. They were very odd but dangerous places. Once again, he said Charlie was telling him to do it. At this point, we told him he was not allowed to play with Charlie anymore, and that he would get into a lot of trouble if he did. He stopped bringing Charlie up right away, and his mischievous actions had stopped. Now, when Tyler had reached the same age that Bailey was, he began to do similar mischievous things, and once again the boy Charlie was blamed for it. We told him not to play with Charlie immediately, and that he would get into trouble again. We explained to him that Charlie would end up getting him or one of us hurt, but the next time we heard about Charlie always gives me chills. We had gone to my other aunt's house, who lived just across town, about 5 to 8 minutes away max. We were sitting on her back porch talking, when the older boy Bailey looks into the backyard and just stares for a bit. We ask him what he's looking at, and he says, "Why is Charlie here?" We asked him where Charlie was, and he points to the backyard, by their magnolia tree, and he says he's right there in the backyard, don't you see him? From then on, we decided not to say where we were going before we left the house, under the belief that if you say where you're going, demons or negative entities can follow you there. We eventually moved from the house before her other 2 children turned 3. They never had any experiences with Charlie. I hope you enjoy my story. I can't wait to see all the wonderful looks you'll create in the future. Until next time, my friend Robert and Marcus. Oh, thanks. Thank you for your time. This second story is called The Haunted Ward. Hi Robert, I'm a nurse who mostly works night shifts on the newly built ward. No one really knows what the grounds were used for before the building was there, but there are rumours that it was a mental health asylum for shell-shocked soldiers. We have all heard footsteps and noises we can't really explain, but I had never seen any kind of ghost. I sometimes get the feeling that I'm being watched too, so I always make sure I have someone around me, as I get scared quite easily. Our ward is split into 2, and when the ward isn't full, we close the side to cut running costs down. One night I had to go to the closed side of the ward, send a sample to our labs. I made sure I brought someone with me because it's so creepy, and I wasn't brave enough to go on my own. So myself and another nurse go into the room to send the sample off, and we heard shuffling and heavy breathing on the other side of the door. We froze for a few minutes and eventually found the courage to run away, back to the open side of the ward. When we got round there, we asked our colleagues if they had been playing a joke on us, and they didn't know anything about it. We were that scared that we decided to ask the security guard to look on the CCTV to check if anyone had followed us, to try and scare us and we could catch who it was. He eventually came out of his office and told us we needed to see the footage. We watched for a few minutes and saw a figure come from a room at the end of the corridor and stand right outside the room that we were in for about a minute. It then carried on walking past. After that day, I won't even go to the toilet on my own during my shifts because I am so scared. He wouldn't let us take a video of the footage as it's a hospital and we could lose our jobs, but I've never been so freaked out in all my life. I love your videos so much. Thanks for reading. Now here's a quick exclusive for everyone. Robert's let me say this one because he's a bit shy, but next Monday on his Ghost Makeup Stories for Makeup on Mondays, he's going to sing one of the stories. He's like written a whole thing out on a ukulele and he's going to do like a whole recording. So everybody get really excited about that because that's coming next Monday. Okay, see you later, bye.
Never in my life did I say I'm going to sing ghost stories to you. Such a liar. Those were terrifying. First of all, fuck Charlie. This is a thing. My worst fear about having children is that they're going to start to see ghosts or speak to ghosts or be like, my friend Charlie. No, Absolutely not. I won't have it. Not in my house. I will not have that. Charlie. Honestly, if I have a child and they start talking about ghosts or seeing something, I will have every kind of religious leader coming to my house. Religious leader? You know what I mean. And do whatever it is they do to get rid of bad energy and spirits. Like, wait to hit 18, then you can start seeing ghosts, you know? So I just highlighted everywhere with the Mars Melter Kaleidos highlighter. Absolutely incredible. And I use the Rare Beauty. I might put a bit more on blush. Barely Berry. Use a little bit more. And I'm going to read our next story. This is called, it's called XXX again, but I read one like that last week. I wonder if Marcus is just the ones without a name, just put in X's. We'll think of a name. It says, "Hi Rob, I've been watching videos for a few months now and have just binge watched your Ghosts and Makeup Monday series. This has encouraged me to share my story, which isn't really a ghost story, but something I still find creepy to this day. I was around 12 years old and my young sister was 10. One night, she woke up only shortly after falling asleep, screaming and crying. As we shared a room, this woke me up and I got up to comfort her. My mum was still downstairs, watching TV at that time, so came upstairs and asked what was wrong. My sister said that she saw someone set our house on fire. My mum obviously calmed her down and said nothing was wrong. It took a while, but my sister eventually fell back to sleep, as did I. However, my mum went back downstairs, and to her horror, our dining room tablecloth was on fire, which she rushed to put out. She had a candle lit, but it was enclosed in a tea light holder and therefore was not a naked flame that could just set the cloth on fire unless a candle was removed from the holder. My mum has never told me she saw anything or anyone do this, as my sister had dreamt, but my mum is still creeped out by it to this day and has not talked about it since. Thank you for your amazing videos. Wishing you all the best. And you, thank you so much for your story. I love it. If you have any stories like that, like dreams coming true, not dreams coming true as in I got to sing on stage, like, you know, creepy dreams coming true, predictions, send them over. Although I'm also happy your dreams are coming true if they are coming true. Okay, I'm going to wax some lashes on because that was our last story and then we'll be done with our wine look. Okay, so this is my wine time meme death look. So I was found dead with my phone in my hand. I was writing a status on Facebook and it was like, kids in bed, hubby upstairs on his PlayStation, time for wine, methinks. And then that was the last thing I ever said. Do you want that to be you? Lesson learned. This is, I really like the depth of this eyeshadow. It's really great pigmentation from Melt. Really, really like them. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. If you have a ghost story, weird experience, paranormal experience, was somebody living in your home and you didn't realize, send a story right here to this email address. Thank you so much for joining me. Please consider subscribing, liking this video, and I will see you very, very soon. Have an amazing week ahead. I will see you next Monday, and actually I'll see you Wednesday and Sunday for makeup stuff. Bye.